and welcome to the Romance Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Kelsey Martin, and tonight we are talking about romance love. And I should add, I'm also Morgan Brice. So I've got, put in this debate as well. But we are talking about vacation love, all those things you can do on vacation, finding the right person on vacation. The ideas are limitless, and we're going to go into them. But first, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with VJ.
Hi, I'm VJ Allison. I'm a romance author from Nova Scotia, Canada, and most of my books are set here in Nova Scotia. I'm currently with Ecstasy Books and Decadent Publishing, and my latest release could have been had its bookversary over the weekend. Just turned a year old.
Very good. Layla?
My name is Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, and I'm here actually to talk to you about two vacation books. One of them is my Pride cruise book from last year, and the other is my Pride camp book that I'm currently working on for this year's Pride series that we have coming out this month and next month. So yeah, vacation romances. I love writing them.
Very good. Ariel?
Hey, I'm Ariel Dawn. I write a little bit of everything under the sun, from monster romance to paranormal romance to contemporary rom-coms to male to why choose. I literally write it all. So I'll be talking to you today about a couple of my more vacation-y romances, A Dark and Stormy Night, and a release that just came out that sort of has kind of a vacation slotted in there. And that book is called Broken Vows. So we'll chat about that a little bit more later, probably.
Okay. And I'm Kelsey Martin and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But especially a number of my Morgan books are set in vacation locations. And that's also how I found those locations. So we've got a lot to talk about. So let's start with this whole idea of vacation love. You go on vacation, you're just expecting to maybe recharge and get a little break. And all of a sudden you trip over Mr. Right. No more preposterous than most romance tropes. I mean, it could happen. But what's the appeal of finding your perfect someone while you're on vacation? VJ?
I think it might be the fact that it is such a rush because you only have such a limited time to be with this person. Like if you're on a cruise or on vacation, like the couple is and could have been, or anywhere. It's like, and then if you're in like a tropical resort or something like that, less clothes. It's like the summer romances, hot and steamy and everything, and no, like very little to no clothing. Lots of fun, and sometimes you get to know each other a lot faster than you would in regular real life. Like sometimes like a romance could take part over years, but in the vacation romances where you've only got the limited time, you guys are together like a lot and everything, it could just happen just like that. And like insta love, somebody would call it, I guess. I mean, or that's my thinking at least.
Okay. Layla?
I think it's the unexpected too, because you're in a brand new place, and especially if you've never been there before and you're exploring it and they're also exploring, and so it's nobody's home turf. You're kind of seeing all these new places together. So each new experience is not only a new experience for the couple, but it's a new experience period for both of them. So that's like an awesome way to bond, try something new, do things that you wouldn't ordinarily either do or think about doing, running and going skinny dipping, just because, you're not, who wants to go skinny dipping by themselves? And you've got this person that you're already like super attracted to. So why the hell not? Vacations are just a mecca of why the hell not situations. Like this is your one little chance for however long you're there to like literally jump off that cliff and, go dive that waterfall or go zip lining or just do something that, maybe you've never had the chance to do, or see something like in Seafoam and Saltwater Taffy, my Pride Cruise book, before they even get on the ship, they are wandering and they're looking for a place to eat, and they come across a jellyfish cafe. And I had so much fun creating the cafe and the experience of all these different jellyfish, like being in an aquarium, but it's in this cafe. And all the food is jellyfish themed, and the little drinks are jellyfish themed. And of course, this is a daddy little book and a family restaurant. So I got to have fun with like non-alcoholic, fun jellyfish themed, food and drink, and just really play with that, but also play up to the fact that there were, you know, a little and a pup in that story too. So the daddy got to spoil them with books and puppets and different cool things at the Jellyfish Cafe. But it's like, where else, if your hometown has one, you're super lucky. But most people, you go somewhere that has things that you've never seen before and you really want to see, and then you find that special someone and get to see them together.
So I think for me, especially when I think of vacation romance, and I think one of the big draws to me for vacation romance, it's the anonymity. Kind of going off of what everybody else was saying too, like there's like a time, like a little time bubble that you have to like remain in, and there's all these new things, and there's all kinds of things that are unexpected, but also there's a chance for you to be someone else, right? So it's like, because this person knows nothing about you, you're not from the same town, you're not in the same wheelhouse. So there's an anonymity factor, I think, which plays off of that time bubble, and it plays off of all those unexpected things that you're going to see in this area that you're not from. So I think sometimes that leads into it a little bit more, for me, because a lot of times, especially in the stuff that I'm reading and also the stuff that I'm writing, the MCs, they're always looking for that spark, that something that they can't find elsewhere, and sometimes that exists within themselves too, because they're not able to be themselves. So taking yourself out of your environment and going somewhere completely new, you can be somebody different, or you can be yourself. And so I think that sometimes for me is what really kind of like heightens, especially when I'm reading like those good book, like those beach reads, and those good spicy romances, set in fancy places or resorts or this or that. There's that anonymity factor there too. So I think for me, that's kind of what I think of when I think of vacation romance, the thing.
I apologize for being muted. On our recording nights, my golden retriever gets extra chew toys, and they get very crunchy sometimes. And he knows when we're recording, and he knows he is due, for some extras.
Of course.
It's just loud. Anyhow, yeah, I think yes to all of that. And I think there's just the possibility that anything can happen. That's the whole reason you left home, is that anything can happen, which kind of leads into my next question. That's sort of an extension of what we were talking about, is what is it about the frame of mind most people have when they go on vacation that may make them a little more susceptible to being open to meeting someone or taking a chance or um, making a big change? VJ?
Well, and could have been, he's a recovering alcoholic, so he's basically sent to the resort to just recharge. She's just coming off a divorce, and they wind up becoming friends, and like running into each other a couple times, becoming friends. And she's feeling a little loose and like happy, and just to be free of the ex. And she's down there to meet new people, have fun. He's down there, and he I think for him it would be more like, although he's not as open, she manages to break down every barrier with him in that short time, because she is so fun. She's vivacious, she's beautiful, she's fun, she carries on with them. They instantly form a rapport, and they decide to start having breakfast together. They go for swims together, and the next thing you know, bam, they're in his hotel room having fun. It's kind of, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and I mean, it happens over a couple of days. I mean, like not even a week happened, you know, and the way that she is so free and stuff brings him like the free side of him because he's so restrained and everything after losing his wife, becoming an alcoholic, you know, spiraling down. She makes him want to live again, so he spirals upward, and it's just happened just in a matter of days.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
I think, you know, just being free and open and fun and everything like that can really, really, really bring out one person if the other one is like that.
That makes sense. Layla?
I hope.
Yeah, I think when you're going away, you're supposed to be leaving, you know, the work, the stress, the whatever's going on at home. You're leaving that behind you so that you can like go and with a clear head and not have to give yourself anxiety worrying about the things that are waiting for you at home. And so for me with a little campfire blues, which is going to be my Pride Camp story for this year, it's a little bit of a challenge because it is an MMMM. Three of the characters are, yep, three of the characters are were childhood best friends. Yep, there are four.
I hope they have a big tent.
Isn't that the sound of MMM?
Oh, that is a very big
Good one.
mm.
Had to do it. Had to do it.
And they have a cabin.
Oh, okay.
That they've got a cabin together, and only one of them knows that both of the other two are going to be there. They had a falling out. They've kind of like wanted to reconnect, but you know, each one has been worried about like, I don't know how to start, I don't know what to say, blah blah blah. You know, the moment's not right. They talk themselves out of it. So when the opportunity came about the camp, the one kind of shared it with the other two and encouraged them both to come. And now they're, you know, arriving and they have a chance to replay their friendship and everything and kind of see what some of the things from the past could have led to. But in the process, there's this, you know, unknown character, unknown to them, who's also, you know, coming to the camp, and he's got kind of things in common which each with each of the three. And of course, this being the series that it is, this is Daddy Little Pet. So I have actually two littles in this book, a pup, and then I have the daddy, who is the one that they meet at the camp, who really just kind of finds something kindred in each one of them. And through that, and through the activities at the camp and the time they spend together while they're there, they have time to like build this relationship between the three of them or between the four of them. And really like, I'm gonna have to write another book. I just know it, but you know, it's gonna be one of those things where it was the perfect moment to be somewhere together where you could spend time with a group, but also time in the woods, time around the campfire. There's going to be two of them are musicians, so there's going to be some campfire songs, and there's going to be, excuse me, marshmallow toasting, and just all those
All the
fun
good
things
stuff.
that you
Good
do in
stuff.
the woods during camp.
Okay. Ariel.
Okay, so kind of how I was talking about that whole anonymity aspect of how we can kind of just like reinvent ourselves like while we're on vacation and just kind of like, or just be more of ourselves in an environment that isn't, oppressive to us. So, I have to mention A Dark and Stormy Night, which takes place in 1996. So it is a historical paranormal male female female romance, and my main character in that particular book, she is going to the resort to work, so there is the anonymity factor is still there because she's away from college, where she's going to this, this gorgeous island, the resort where anything can happen, right? And of course, we go into that with, kind of blinders on because you think that everything's going to be great. If you've ever worked at a resort or a camp, you know that once you get there, that completely goes away. Because then you realize it's work and, you know, there's a lot more. You don't get as much free time, you know, as you think you're going to. So there's still that anonymity aspect of like, you know, where she's working the job, she's trying to figure out the stuff. They're like sort of very you know, kind of in camp areas for where they're staying, you know, for where the staff is staying, as opposed to where the ritzy resort people are staying. So the big thing about that particular book is the anonymity of going to a party. She goes to a party for one of the, you know, the people are holding in the mansion or whatever, and the hurricane is coming and everyone has to evacuate, but of course she passes out somewhere and doesn't know she has to evacuate in the mansion full of vampires. So who own the island. So and in the other story that I have that I wanted to talk to you about today, which is Broken Vows, not so much a vacation, but my MC, well, one of the MCs, goes to New York to kind of look at properties, try to expand a business. And they end up staying there a little bit longer than they plan. Some things happen with him and his wife. And he leaves and goes up to New York, trying to, you know, put the pieces back together with his former ex-best friend. And obviously, we're in a new place. All kinds of things are great. We're realizing we're falling back in love with our best friend. And, you know, so there is that whole scope of being somewhere else, you know, far away from, you know, the misery of his marriage or the life that he has back home. And all of a sudden we're in, you know, we're in the Big Apple and everything is grand and everything is cool and we're having a great time. So I think you know, that mindset of just being somewhere else, of just being able to be more, in the case of Broken Vows, more yourself, or in the case of Dark and Stormy Night, a person that you might not be able to be back home. I think that really heightens it for me.
And I think that, and we've touched on this several times, the idea of going on vacation and letting down some of those barriers. Because you're on vacation, you're not around the people you're normally around. You don't expect to run into anybody you know. So letting down some of those defenses and then, oh, wow, becoming open to something that you didn't anticipate seeing, that maybe in your normal regular life you would have just bustled on past because you were busy and deep in your usual thing. So I think that openness is another piece to the vacation romance. So the big thing with vacation, as they say, is location, location, location. So talk a little bit, please, about the locations where your characters go on these fabulous vacations and fall in love. VJ?
Well, I decided to put a fictional island in the Bahamas with a private resort on it called the Sunrise or Sun. I can't remember the name of the resort.
That happens, I know.
Anyway, I decided I was going to do that as per a suggestion from another author at Ecstasy that I'm pretty close to. It was her idea because she's been to the Bahamas several times, because I thought, well, gee whiz, where in the heck am I going to set this? I don't want it set in Nova Scotia because that means he'd know that she's Nova Scotian. I want them to be like completely anonymous. I mean, he even gives a fake name to protect the family name because he's from this really rich oil family out in Alberta. And his grandfather's like, either you know, if you're going to go, you better use your middle name. So, and that's how she knows him. She knows him as David. Because he gives her the name Davidson. She comments about a Harley, you know. But that one's set in a fake retreat at the Bahamas. And this one, Dana is actually from Alberta, and she's vacationing at the vacation home of her cousin who starred in Stricken, who's up in Annapolis Royal, up along the Annapolis Valley. Gail, you know what I'm talking about. High tides and everything. That one's set in Annapolis Royal, for the most part, at the vacation house of the Campbells. And she basically trips over him at the what used to be the tidal power plant nearby. they had to shut it down because it had killed too much marine life. Hi, Bay of Fundy, if you don't know, it's the highest tides in the world, and there's a lot of power punch behind those tides, and it's, well, she was there visiting it because she had never ever seen something like that before and thought it was really cool, and she trips over him there. She drops her shoes and he picks them up for her, and that's how they meet. And she stays at the vacation house and stuff like that there. But I mean, like, I was describing stuff like I'd already seen this. Could have been was completely different because I had to like world build. I had to like describe everything. It's just like, how can I describe stuff that I've never seen before? But I wound up getting pictures,
Mm-hmm.
using pictures from like the Bahamas and Jamaica and everything like that, just to get a general idea. And I focused it basically on just the beaches for the descriptions, and how he meets her as he's like coming back from snorkeling. She's sound asleep on a beach blanket, but her top is shifted. So he gets a good glimpse of her. And she wakes up due to a seagull squawking right over her head. So that's how they meet.
Okay.
So yeah, and she was like feeling free and everything like that. And he winds up tripping over her at the bar, at like one of the dance bars and stuff like that. So, and that's how things spiral for them. So
Okay.
weird.
It could happen.
Oh
Layla?
yeah.
Well, Seafoam and Saltwater Taffy takes place on a kinky cruise. So it is an actual kink cruise. It's all set up. So there's like all kinds of rooms, there's all kinds of activities. And the characters really the cruise is going to the Caribbean. So like when they're not on the cruise, I got to have fun with like glass bottom boat trip and this play that's taking place by the waterfront, and it's actually like a piece of folklore that's being acted out about the local area. And so they watch and kind of learn a little bit of the folklore of the place by watching this play that's taking place just in a little outdoor amphitheater. And then on the boat there's a room, and it was so much fun to create this scene, and I was laughing through part of it because I've gone and done this in like not a rage room type thing, but it's similar. The walls are covered in Velcro, and you put on a Velcro suit and you get to go climbing on the walls like Spider-Man. Well, this book is MMM, so it's a daddy, a pet, and a boy. They're actually in a relationship, but it's very early in the relationship. So the cruise is kind of a way to just bond more, spend time together because they've all been working a lot, and just have fun. And so the boy is nonverbal. So like Ember signs, and both of them are fluent in sign language. So he's signing and he's challenging them and he wants them to chase him. And he doesn't realize that after a while, he tears off up this wall. And after a while, it's getting really hard to unvelcro himself. And he finally, like, they're giving chase and he gets himself into these secluded little rooms that are kind of built into the walls. And you can hang a little privacy sign outside the room, and he winds up velcroed by his suit, well, the parts of it still on him, to the wall. So to make very easy for fun times to take place while they've got him pretty much like splayed up and pinned to this wall in this little private space in the thing. And it's just such a fun little chase scene. They have a pride parade on board the ship during the cruise. They've got like a lazy river that they float in the morning, sometimes drinking smoothies and watching the sun come up. There's a little leapfrog game that the littles are playing on these lily pads that are going around the lazy river on the boat, and they're trying to leap from pad to pad. And there's like a pup fashion show at one point. Like, I had so much fun just like creating this scene on the boat. Like, there's a bazaar area where you can buy gear and you can buy you know, clothes and different toys and different just fun things. They even have like a playroom. They have a movie night, like everything you could have on a normal cruise, but it's designed specifically for like the kink community to enjoy it in their own way without having to like pretend or be somebody else just to go take part in the activity. They're free to come as they are to every activity on the ship.
Okay.
And so much fun to write. Loved the
It's
setting for that and the fact that the cruise ship really got to be a real destination.
That's always one of the most fun things is actually fleshing out the location. Ariel?
Um, so kind of one of the things that I like to do, because I'm a very sensory type reader, so I'm a very sensory type author. So oftentimes I will definitely write about places that I have been because I have experienced it, right? So I think we always kind of like, as writers, just in general, we always try to pull from something we know. But there are times that I have not been places, and I'm writing a story and I've got a scene and I'm like, well, I've never been there, so how am I going to write this? And I try to do a lot of research with that. So usually that's kind of how I ended up doing it. In the case of A Dark and Stormy Night, I have been to Massachusetts, but I have only been to Salem. So I have not been on the island that this takes place on, is a fictional island off the coast of Massachusetts. I did research hurricanes and whether or not they hit up there, which they do.
They do, trust
Which
me.
Oh,
is
they do.
they do, and I
They
know that
do.
because
They hit here too.
I do have friends that live in Massachusetts. So one of my co-authors lives up there. So as I was writing this, I was kind of, because again, this is set in 1996. So I was alive in 1996, but I was very young. So trying to research not only like the location, but like the time period of the location too, because different areas obviously have different cultural impacts, different regional impacts. Especially, when you go further up north where you have, heavier winters and things like that. So, and right, So
I'm from the
as I was
north.
writing this, I did a lot more research, because I really wanted to try to capture the whole nautical feel, because I feel like a lot of times when you do read, beach reads or you read certain, locations, it's always like, the Caribbean or like sunny Florida or like those typical beach towns that you think of, California. You don't typically think of like a beach being like, unless you're going to like Cape Cod or the Hamptons. So I wanted something that was a little bit different for a beach than what you would normally get. And again, like I said, it's set in 1996. So it heavily relies and pulls inspiration from some of my more horror-esque background where I've got some influences from like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Camp Crystal Lake, to kind of like lean into all of that with this. So, and then on the opposite end, with Broken Vows, it actually takes place because the story itself, it's a male story, second chance, friends, two enemies, two lovers. There is a cheating trope, so if you are not into cheating, I would not recommend it. They do not cheat on each other, but when you meet Austin's wife, you will understand wholeheartedly why he cheats on her. Um, but that particular book takes place, since it takes place in two different time periods, takes place when Austin is going to be married and they go to Vegas for the bachelor party. I have been to Vegas, so that was very easy for me to draw from. And then in the future, when it is years later, when their friendship is broken and they're trying to, patch things up, and he goes to New York. I have been to New York, so I was able to kind of, pull on both of those places I've been multiple times. So it's a little bit easier of a book for me to write because I was able to like put some of my own like experiences in there or just be able to capture it a little bit more than this one. But I think there's something to be said about both because obviously when we are writing places that we've been and things that we have seen, obviously that can come a little bit easier, but there's also something I think to be said about wanting to go somewhere you haven't been and writing about somewhere you haven't been yet that adds to that whole vibe of how your characters feel because they're experiencing a new place. You're experiencing it too, even if you haven't been there.
Okay. With my series, it's less of the characters being on vacation as having relocated to a vacation town to
Hmm.
rebuild their lives. So in Badlands, It's set in Myrtle Beach, which is a place that I've vacationed in quite a bit. But both characters have moved to Myrtle Beach to start over after bad things happened. And so they're reinventing themselves. They're kind of still wounded. They're a little prickly, but they run across each other and they need each other to solve the paranormal murders that are happening. And so over the course of working together, despite their misgivings and their recent heartbreaks, they do fall in love. And so we get to see through the subsequent books in the series different places around Myrtle Beach that I love researching the locations. I love researching the history. If they aren't places that I've been, there's plenty of information out there. So that's the Badlands series. The Treasure Trail series is set in Cape May, New Jersey. I discovered Cape May, New Jersey when our oldest daughter chose to have her wedding there. I'd never been there before. Absolutely fell in love. It has a huge number of big Victorian homes and hotels, and there is a very famous hotel that no longer exists, but of course ended up using it in one of the books because the hotel itself became a ghost and a part of a haunting. But again, fun to deal with those big old Victorian hotels, and they show up in the locations of several other series, because particularly in Pennsylvania and the Northeast, there were a lot of those hotels at a certain time. And unfortunately, we've lost many of them to fire and disrepair, and just travel patterns changed. But those big old grand Victorian ladies of the resort hotels are just fantastic. My Fox Hollow series is set in the Adirondacks, the mountains in New York, which I grew up vacationing at as a kid. So, and Kings of the Mountain is in the mountains of North Carolina, which many people also consider to be prime vacation territory. So, it's kind of fun for me because I get to explore either virtually or get my husband in the car and say, "We're going," and check it out in
Research.
person. Research, yes. So that's all fun, even if they aren't technically on vacation. Well, folks, we have come to the end of our time, so I need us to quickly go around to tell everybody where we can find you online, and if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, tell us very briefly. VJ?
You can find me at Ecstasy Books, Decadent Publishing. I'm on Facebook, Hey Cafe, Blue Sky. Trying to think where else. I also have a small business I'm hoping to get registered soon called VJ Allison Art, that I do book covers and everything like that. I'm all over the place. I shut down my X account, so I'm no longer there. My most recently release is Could Have Been. It's a love story. Sorry, but it ends on a cliffhanger. I'm currently writing the sequel to this, which is their Happy Ever After, and it's also the finale of the Feathered Tartan series, which includes my debut novel, Stricken. There's another book in there called Sweet Child of Mine, which is a very short story. It's the epilogue to Stricken, and then my lone LGBT book, honestly, she's pan, he's trans. So I'm hoping to get that done. I'm also working on another book, a love story called Thorns of the Rose. And that is going to be an independent release. And I'm also co-authoring a crime drama with a friend of mine and this is all before I start another series.
Lots going on.
In the works. Yeah. And plus, I'm also doing regular artwork and stuff like that too. And, just being me.
Okay. Layla?
Well, you can find me at Layla Dorine at Wix.com. You can find me at Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms. You can find me in my Facebook group, Layla Dorine's Moonlight Magic, and Layla Dorine's Rainbow Lyrics and Midnight Musings. I'm on Instagram, trying to do better about being there at least every other day. I need to get back into TikTok. Seafoam and Saltwater Taffy is almost a year old, so you can find that on Amazon, and it is actually currently being made into an audiobook. And then A Little Campfire Blues is currently available for pre-order. That will be out in towards the end of June, and that will be part of our Pride Camp series, which is it's so much fun to do that and to actually design a camp for the characters.
Okay. Ariel?
You can find me pretty much everywhere. www.ariel-dawn.com has all of my socials. I am on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads, Blue Sky, literally wherever you can think of, I am. I did just have a release recently, that was Broken Vows, which I co-wrote with Penny Fox. We do have the second book in this Secret Games series, which is coming out in July. It's called Icebreaker. It follows Austin's hockey player brother. And I do have a couple releases coming out this month. I have, I believe, Captured Omega, which I co-wrote with AJ Mulliken. It is my first like contemporary Omega verse under Ariel Dawn. It is Wide Shoes. There is some spicy spice. There's some male stuff. And I do have a couple things coming out next month for Pride. I have another co-write with AJ Mulliken. We have Trick or Treat, which is a jack-o'-lantern shifter romance. It is very pumpkin spicy, I will just say that. Um, and I also have Rejected Vampire, which is coming out next month, which is part of the Rise series through Luna Weathers. So those are my upcoming things. And again, you can find me at arieldawn.com and here on Continual and pretty much everywhere.
Okay. I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbrice.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on pretty much all of the social medias. Equalizer, the second book in our Sharps and Springfield series, just came out in paperback. So we're excited about that. I'm excited about that. Signs and Wonders, the seventh book in the Witchbane series, just is coming out on audiobook. And I'm currently working on Cursed, which is the eighth book in the Witchbane series. So lots of good stuff going on. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here tonight. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more romance coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.